Hello, everyone. I am going to get started. Please let us know in the chat if you have any trouble with sound or any issues with hearing what we're saying. So I'm going to do a land acknowledgement to start things off this afternoon. As we all know, we are here together today to learn about and discuss fintech and the future of transactions. And we are represented by participants from several countries and many different regions. To begin, I would like to acknowledge that St. Lawrence College, and where I am now, which is just north of Kingston, Ontario, is situated on the traditional lands of the Anishinaabe and Haudenosaunee people. We are grateful to live, learn, and teach on these lands, and we recognize that in order to do so, Indigenous people were removed, displaced, and killed. I would encourage you to take a moment now and acknowledge the land upon which you are situated. Today, as we are focusing on the future, I believe it's relevant to reflect on the relationship between technology and Indigenous ways of knowing and being, and in what ways they intersect with the sector that you work in, and how they could be embedded thoughtfully into the future of the field. Thank you. So welcome, everyone. My name is Julia Higginson. I am a professor in the Human Resources program in the School of Business. We have participants registered here today from over 6 countries and many different areas. So welcome and thank you for joining us. I would also like to say thank you to Shane Malcolmson, Michelle Laval, and Eric Ozora for taking time to share their knowledge, experience, and perspectives with us today. Our focus today is to explore fintech development and how it affects banking and transactions, fintech trends and how this affects our customer expectations and growing businesses, new innovations helping companies predict and detect problems, and conventional institutions, an increased reliance on tech and how traditional institutions continue to invest in and acquire fintech technologies. I'm now turning it over to Xenia Reedman, who is a St. Lawrence College School of Business accounting graduate, who is a full-time staff accountant at Secker, Ross & Perry, and a part-time business professor here with the School of Business at St. Lawrence College.
Thank you, Julia. Thank you for the warm welcome. And thank you to all the participants for joining us today. I am very pleased with this opportunity to participate and facilitate this webinar series organized by St. Lawrence College. We can't deny that fintech is one of the fastest growing and developing industries that change the financial and business world nowadays. I am excited to talk to an amazing panel today who are dedicated professionals in the fintech industry. And I hope to have a really great discussions and conversations on the latest trend in fintech. And I can't wait to see what our panelists have to share with us today. To give you an overview of how the things will go today, we will start with our panelists, and each of them have prepared a brief presentation on the topic of our webinar. Then our panel will answer some of the questions that we received during the registration process. And after that, we will open up floor for questions from the audience if time permits. So please feel free to put your questions and comments in the chat. So I think we are ready to move on to our first speaker, Michelle Laval. Michelle is a professor in the School of Business at St. Lawrence College and executive director of Apelo Finance Technology. Michelle is a bilingual entrepreneur, financial services executive, teacher, and scholar who is committed to lifelong learning, business strategy implementation, and startup builds with proven hands-on experience and expertise in the private sector. Michelle is recognized for wealth-enhancing opportunities at financial institutions within various markets, such as banks, credit unions, brokerages, insurance companies, and fintechs, paytechs. Michelle's execution skills are evidenced in the deployment of value chain strategies in both business to consumer and business to business segments, often in combination and across the platforms. Please welcome Michelle Laval.
Thank you, Ksenia, and thank you, Julia, for the wonderful land acknowledgement, and of course, St. Lawrence College for the opportunity to speak. I see that so far we have 52 attendees, which is wonderful. I think that my bio sort of tells you what I do, but I'd like to begin on a very personal note in terms of Why is it that I have a passion for fintech, of course, but also a commitment to lifelong learning? A little bit of maybe a personal note to begin with. I have 3 children. A 21-year-old, his name is Alessandro. He goes to Western University in London here in Ontario, Canada. I have a 19-year-old. His name is Maxime. He goes to York University. And then I have a 2-year-old. His name is Charlie. He's technically not a human, although I don't believe this for a moment. He's a bichon pou, which for those of you who don't know is a dog, and truly is the love of my life. From an educational perspective, I did a first undergraduate certificate at the University of Cambridge in England. I came back home to Canada and specifically to Toronto. I did an undergrad at York University in politics, economics, and business. I stayed to take my master's degree in business, economics, and politics. And then recently, I went back to university to take my MBA at Queen's University. And of course, St. Lawrence College is well known in Kingston, and that's how I started to teach at St. Lawrence College. I want to tell you a little bit about what is it that Apedo does, but I'd like it not to be a quote-unquote presentation, so feel free to raise your hand and hopefully I'll pick up on it, and happy to answer your questions as we go along. So a little bit of background about Apedo on the second slide here, just to keep me on track, I guess. We are a payment services provider, and what that means essentially is that under the guidance of the Bank of Canada, we're able to process payments as a fintech, as a paytech, on behalf of other organizations, inclusive of fintechs, of course, but also other verticals that I'll talk about shortly. Recently, however, the Bank of Canada and FinTrack has legislated that a lot of these paytechs and fintechs need to be licensed as a money services business, and Apedo is that as well. And maybe we can move to the next slide, please. When we started on this journey, and truth be told, Apedo is a function of my own MBA project at Queen's. And we started with an idea more than anything else, and $1. We invested, my business partner and I, $1 back in late 2018, and we incorporated in 2019. And really our commitment was as follows. We wanted to work with cooperative-based financial institutions. So in other words, credit unions, caisses populaires, and others in and around Canada. Second, we wanted to commit to small to mid-sized enterprises because we felt at the time that there was a real need for small to mid-sized enterprises to have a viable alternative to traditional payments processing. And but again, that was an idea back in 2018 rather. And if you fast forward to today, our run rate is well over $7 million on a cost base of about $3 million. I don't want the attendees to think that our profit margins are what drives us. What really drives us is to make a meaningful difference in the lives of Canadians, small business enterprises, who frankly, from my perspective, are struggling in order to move payments both domestically and internationally as well. Maybe the next slide, please. I also want to talk about relationships. I mentioned that back in 2018, Apedo, and I won't tell you the etymology of why the name Apedo came up, and maybe that's a sidebar conversation, but notwithstanding, I wanted to make sure back in 2018 that I continue to work with people who I enjoy. And up on the slide, I just want to briefly highlight some of our team members. Gary Sevedy was previously the CEO of Alterna Bank and Savings. He's been in the industry for a long time, probably over 40 years. He made me promise not to say how long, it's been around, so I won't do that. But it's suffice to say, it's a long time. And currently, he's our chair of the board and also an executive director. Gabe Kalmar used to be a senior vice president at CIBC and the president of CIBC Insurance, also the more recently the president of Cumis Insurance. And Gabe and I worked together both at CIBC and as well at Cumis Insurance. And Shay Malcolmson was our first employee. And you know, a bit of a personal note, Shay's mom, and I hope you don't mind me saying this, Shay has been my mentor for years and years. And of course, when I was introduced to Shay, that was a long time ago, probably 20 years ago. He was probably you know, thinner and a little bit different, but notwithstanding, he's been a friend, a colleague for a number of years, and we're blessed to have him as part of our team as well. Perhaps the next slide. I mentioned that our commitment has been since the very beginning and remains so today. Our commitment has been to small to mid-sized enterprises. And really, when you reflect on the Canadian landscape, which I think is not atypical as compared to the global landscape, over 65% of Canadians either work for a small business or own a small business. And I'll tell you from firsthand experience that you're being challenged as an entrepreneur, a small business owner, challenged to even flesh out what your strategy rather is, figure out how is it that you're going to commercialize your idea. And it's work in the trenches. And for those of you who have either owned a small business or work for a small business, I'm sure you can relate. And from the get-go, we knew that this was a vertical that we wanted to serve. And hopefully throughout my talk and Shay's presentation as well, you'll hear the word service. And that's what we want to do. We want to serve communities in which we operate, make a meaningful difference in the lives of these individuals who frankly depend on us. And as importantly, make sure that the industry at large continues to grow and thrive. Perhaps the next slide, please. When we started thinking about how is it that we want to go from ideation to actually running a business, and at the time a startup, at the time a small business, and I think it's fair to say that this is no longer the case. We wanted to really zero in on what was foundational. And we saw even pre-COVID a march towards dealing with less checks, less cash, more digitalization. And we knew that as the industries across the globe continued to iterate, that this move towards digital payments was not going to go away. At least we hope that it wouldn't. So that was the first sort of line of sight that we had. And today, even if you look at the Canadian landscape, over 60% of payments are done electronically. And for those of you who may not have a sort of frame of reference, over 11.1 trillion with a T, $11.1 trillion each and every single year in this country actually exchanges hands. That's a staggering number. But it's growing. There's no reliable data, I don't think, on what is the movement of, or the volume of movement of funds globally. But I would suggest to you that it's at least 100 times bigger. So we knew that people wanted to automate, digitalize, and as importantly, to tap or go into their online banking infrastructure and either push the money out or pull the money in. And this is why the second point or bullet on the slide is that we invested quite a bit of money, our own personal money, developing a platform-based business that had three key components. Number one, bill payment, which I'm sure most of you may be familiar with. So you go into your online banking, you push money out either to pay your property taxes or bill of some sort, or email money transfer, in other words, Interact, where you can also push out the money to whatever payee that you choose to push the money to. Omar, I'm just going to get to you in a quick second after I go to the breakout point. And breaking out for us was, how is it that we serve the communities who perhaps don't feel financially included in this whole open banking thing that everyone talks about, the communities and segments who perhaps feel underserved, such as the money services businesses, the housing co-ops, cannabis, either distributors or other businesses that may be related to cannabis, and also crypto. So we wanted to make sure that we distinguish between foundational, core, and breakout. I'm going to pause over to you, Omar.
Sorry, Michelle, did you receive the question in the chat?
Yeah, someone's raising their hand, and from what I can tell, the person's name is Omar Meja. Happy to carry on if the hand is lowered. Okay, so and Omar, feel free to chime in if you have a question or commentary. The seventh slide, I guess that's what it is, talks about our business as a platform. In the platform-based economy, it's not so much about demand side or rather supply side economics, but rather demand side economics. How is it that we enable end users and intermediaries, other businesses like fintechs and paytechs and others, quite frankly, of the verticals that we've talked about? How do we enable these participants to not only participate within the network effects, but as importantly, to make sure that not only do they contribute and participate, but actually drive what the future of fintech and paytech, quite frankly, could look like in this country, and I think by extension globally. There are a few main challenges, and I'm not going to answer questions on the regulatory landscape or some of the perceived fraud issues that are going on, because that's a matter of public record. What I will say, though, is that in any business, in particular a business that is predicated on moving money, billions and billions of money, invariably there will be bad actors, even in the crypto industry, for example, where you can have people who convince someone to go into their online banking infrastructure, push out payment under the pretense that not only will he or she acquire a cryptocurrency of some sort, but get their money back. Of course, that makes no sense to any reasonable person, but this is what's going on right now. So the inherent risks within a paytech, a fintech, or payments organization are very real. And I think that we've done what we can in order to identify these risks, and as importantly, try to de-risk these items as well. And maybe the last slide. I think I'm at about 10 minutes, give or take, and hopefully I didn't go over, and happy to answer questions if Julia, you think that's the right time, of course.
Thank you, Michelle. It was really nice to hear more about the history of creating a Paylo and the concepts and ideas that your company is based on. Thank you so much. So let's move on to our next presenter, Shea Malcolmson, who is a graduate of University of Manitoba in Labor Studies and Management. Shea is published researcher at the Canadian Centre for Policy Alternatives, and he is passionate about the income of systematic barriers faced by underserved communities. As founder and former executive director of Northern Touch Music Festival and Conference, Shea's problem-solving roots in arts and culture championed and startup and growth of Canada's largest nonprofit education-based music festival for underserved music genres. This leadership, resilience, and determination are now being applied in the finance service industry. With his love for innovation, marketing, community-based thinking, and creating non-traditional solutions for traditional industries, he has now joined the Palo Finance Technology team as market and client experience lead. Please welcome Shay Malcolmson.
Thank you so much, Ksenia, and thank you, everyone. Thank you to St. Lawrence College as well for this opportunity to chat. Michelle gave a little background on myself, and I'll fill in a few more details. I was the first official employee at Palo, so I have been there with the team for, I guess, almost over 3 years now. And originally I was in the arts and culture sector, where I was actually doing a lot of research around decolonizing arts and culture, making sure there was equitable funding across the board for artists and for musicians. And one of the main things I think that really interested me as I got to know the folks from Palo, I did know them for quite some time, as Michelle had said, was that they were doing very similar work, but in the financial industry. So I kind of made a joke not too long ago that I started out as a young boy in arts and culture, and now I moved up to bigger battles in the finance sector. So for me, I absolutely love looking at policy. I absolutely love being a disruptor. I absolutely love being a critical thinker when it comes to how to make sure that nobody is ignored. And I'm actually calling from Treaty 1 territory. So myself personally, I am from the Red River Métis people. So I was very thankful to see the land acknowledgement, and I appreciate that a lot. So I don't have a presentation myself, but just wanted to give you a bit of a background that I started out in arts and culture and then have now moved into fintech. I absolutely love working at Palo and with the team that we have at Palo, because we're actually solving real life challenges and real life issues that are happening, and for people to move money for small to medium sized businesses, like Michelle had said, in Canada, and particularly a lot of the newcomer community and folks who might not have access to the same type of financial services just due to maybe where they came from or how long they've been in Canada or things like that. So it's always been of interest to me. Thanks.
Thank you, Shay. It was an interesting transition of you making from art to finance. It's yeah, I transitioned myself from teaching to finance and now back to teaching. So I understand completely what are you going through. It's not easy sometimes, but it's really interesting.
Absolutely. I feel like I did what I could to help people in arts and culture here, and I made a lot of change. And then now I'm just looking to bigger and better things. Yeah,
as we always should, I think. Thank you so much, Shay. So let's move on to our next presenter, Eric Azura, who is a social entrepreneur and the founder of Afoma and Salatech, two social enterprises that are designed to create prosperity within the creative and informal economy through an ecosystem built to enable artists and creators across the globe. Eric has over 2 decades of experience across diverse and emerging technologies that include blockchain technology. Eric also supports humanitarian initiatives through his organization Azaneta, a registered Canadian charity with its purposes supporting poverty alleviation, quality education, good health, and well-being across sub-Saharan Africa. Please welcome Eric Azura.
Thanks for that intro. I do have a presentation, and I think my presentation will strike a balance between Michelle, and I'm sure Shay is probably going to be my very best friend when I'm done with this presentation today, because a lot of the work that we're doing is based on the activism you've been doing in the past. So I think so maybe I will pull you away from Michelle's team, and then maybe you come on board our team, and then we'll probably put you to work for sure.
No way.
So I'm going to start. I will present my deck, and I think I will be relying on Amanda to be my sidekick because I want there will be 2 videos that I will be playing. So I will ask her to step in and help through those videos for me when we do get to doing that. Okay. All right. Again, my name is Eric Oswara. I am the founder of Afoma and Celitic, but I want to primarily focus on on our social enterprise, or my company called Afoma, because Afoma is the mother of all, which was inspired through some of the work that I have been doing through my charity called Azoneta, which is incorporated here in Canada. And we do work across sub-Saharan Africa. So I am very happy to be here to talk about fintech and the future of transactions. I will probably put Michelle, I will probably make him a bit not uncomfortable, but more around challenging some of the amazing work that we've seen for decades companies like themselves have been doing. But I will be focusing a little bit more on a newer concept of emerging technology, which is more around the crypto side of things, and show some of the benefits of what cryptocurrency or blockchain will bring to fintech and the future of transactions. And my approach today will be very, very practical. I will be talking about my personal experiences and how we're leveraging this technology towards what we are trying to do at Afoma. Okay, so I think I just wanted to share this because it's just for the folks that are attending the session today about what fintech is. It is, as most of you know, also known as financial technology that seeks to improve and automate, the way we deliver financial services today. So we've come a long, long way from when we used to do things with cash. In fact, when we used to do things just by trading goods. Back in, in the early stages of when life came to be, right? So we are now in a society where a lot of what we're trying to do is now cashless. In fact, I can't even remember the last time I had cash in my wallet. So we've come a long, long way in terms of what fintech has to offer. And I am so happy with organizations like Paylo and all of these wonderful organizations that have been making things happen globally. But I have to also point out that there are still facts that we have to point out. They are doing amazing work, but it is not perfect. Today, 1.4 billion people, 1.4 billion across the globe are today unbanked, right? And in fact, a lot of these, the demographic is predominantly women. In fact, let's bring this back home. 10 to 20% of Canadians today are either unbanked and underbanked. So let that sink in. 10 to 20%, right? The cost of this technology, leveraging this technology, is not cheap. Now, I will obviously speak with Michelle and find out the amazing stuff that they've been doing around Paylo. But I've conducted business with the likes of Stripe. I've conducted business with the likes of PayPal. It is not cheap. Real true story. Our creative director for our metaverse project, who lives in the Netherlands. I used to send him transactions in crypto, but then I was in transit and I just didn't have time to buy crypto and send him some money. So I decided, why don't we use PayPal? He warned me not to do that, but I was like, I'm in a hurry, let's use PayPal. I ended up having to spend an additional 115 euros in order to send that transaction, right? 115 euros. And if I took that money and sent it back to my home country of Nigeria, I'm sure it would probably feed a lot of children back home, right? Now, when we look at payment systems or, platforms that we have today, the challenge you also see is that they do not provide global coverage. Okay, when you speak to Stripe says, oh, we're in North America, we're in Europe, we're in here. And I say, okay, are you in Nigeria? No. Are you here? No, right? Same thing with PayPal. Are you here? Are you here? There is no form of global coverage. And at the same time, when you're looking at banks and all whatnot, you're working on a Sunday, the bank is closed, right? But when you look at when you leverage cryptocurrencies 24/7, the market is functioning, right? There is absolute coverage across the globe. I can take money from my living room and send it to someone in far away, where would I call that? As long as I have an internet in the North Pole, I can pretty much do a transaction using crypto today, right? So that is the one, these are the facts, right? So, but, how can we address these challenges? That's why we're here. We need to talk about how we can leverage emerging technology to drive inclusion, equality, and financial freedom. There is a limit to where a lot of payment systems or platforms today can achieve. Yes, we love a lot of what they are doing. A lot of them would even, I was speaking with a startup company a few days ago where they're offering corporate credit cards, right? And they're doing amazing work. Like everything is 0 day, 0 that, 0 day, 0 that, I kept asking him, what's the catch, right? So there are payment platforms and there are startups today that are doing beautiful things to bridge that gap, but there will always be some limitation. And it's not their problem, it's just because of the way the infrastructure is built. And that is why to enable to leverage or drive or bridge this gap, you have to start looking at ways you can tear down these centralized infrastructures and leverage decentralization. And that is why if you're looking at DeFi and cryptocurrencies, that is the one way we can eliminate these barriers to entry and operations, right? So what is cryptocurrency? I'm sure a lot of you already heard that. And if I'm sure when you speak to my people in other, like for example, my home country of Nigeria, the minute you mention cryptocurrency, they say, oh, it's a scam. But, Michelle pointed out something as well. Something that people don't understand and something bad happens, it doesn't go well with media, right? And don't get me wrong, there have been a lot of bad players when it comes to cryptocurrency. But we need to also take into consideration the major legal tender that has been associated with a lot of fraud is the US dollar, right? It is pure fact, right? But the challenge is that cryptocurrency, people still do not understand it. And when bad things happen, people go, there you go, right? And another thing I need to point out is there are a lot of projects today that leverage crypto, but they are not applied to solve real world issues. That is another problem. This is a technology that was built with the potential of solving a lot of real world challenges. If I were to take money to send to someone in Netherlands using crypto, I am talking about a fraction of a dollar. We're talking about cents. In fact, I just did a transaction with one of my co-founders this morning using crypto, and I was paying 0.0005 US cents. That was the transaction fee that I paid. I can guarantee you, I walk into Stripe and I say, I need to do this transaction and I want to send it to somebody in India, right? I can tell you how much that's going to cost me. In fact, if I wire money from my bank to a developer in India, I am paying $50 for a wire transfer. Right? So we want to start looking at leveraging cryptocurrencies, but towards real world issues. That is where we can truly see the power, the potential, and adapt that technology. People then will understand that this is a technology that people need to be paying attention to. And they are paying attention to, because I don't know if you've heard where MasterCard are now working with I've forgotten the company, that now they're looking at leveraging, building crypto cards. Now you can walk into some stores in Europe and pay with your crypto card, right? You want to leverage decentralized finance, right? That is where now everybody owns their own digital wallet. Yes, there is the complications, and which I'll talk about, the complexity to those things, but people now need to be empowered. People now want to own or drive their own ownership, right? You don't want to keep relying on third-party individuals or the banks at the end of the day. But when you give people the ability to own their own digital wallet, to manage their own digital wallet, to decide when they want to transfer money rather than when the banks take money from you. That's what we should be driving today, especially with the economic situation we're dealing with today. So when you leverage cryptocurrency and you leverage DeFi, that is how we now start leading into the future of the internet, Web3. Now, it's always been a catch-all phrase for, oh, that's the future of the internet. But the core of what Web3 is all about is leveraging blockchains and cryptocurrencies to give power back to the users, back to you. The Web3 is definitely going to come, probably in a decade from now. Would that then rule out the existing payment systems and we tag them as legacy technology at that point? That might just have to be what it might be, right? So what are the benefits? Because our firm is primarily working within the creative economy, which is why I said I will be pulling Shay away from you, Michelle. That is where our focus is on. And there's a reason why we went with the creative economy. One, I love arts and culture. That is my desire. And but it's not about me. The reason why we started looking at the creative economy is primarily because if you look at regions like in Africa, where there is a lot of socioeconomic challenges, you tend to see a shift in people becoming micro and small and digital entrepreneurs. And digital entrepreneurs because 70% of the population in Africa is predominantly youth, right? So you start seeing a lot of them shifting towards the creative economy or the informal economy, as if I may use that term, right? So in Nigeria, for example, you're seeing people who are making beautiful, bespoke suits and traditional attires and shoes and all whatnot. But what is the challenge here? They can't scale beyond their local economy. They are locked in Nigeria. Even within Africa, the payment systems are fragmented. The way we have in Africa a tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 ecosystem. What works in Lagos, in Nigeria, probably doesn't work in some remote location in Uganda, right? The payment systems are broken. Now, there is an infrastructure being built now, I've forgotten what the name is, but they're building that to help drive seamless payment solutions across Africa in itself. But we know that they still can not meet the demand of helping to bridge. They can go so far, but there is still a long way to go. So the benefit for us is where we can leverage this technology to help ownership protection. When we start talking about leveraging non-fungible tokens to drive or to enable intellectual property, because now once everything is now digitized, there will be the concerns of artists, even like within the indigenous community, even here in Canada and even in Africa, that might be saying, hey, how do I protect my product, right? How do you reach different parties and allow transactions to happen seamlessly, right? This is where decentralization comes in. And the beauty about what we're doing is, we're building a marketplace or an ecosystem that's truly decentralized, whereas you are, partaking within or contributing towards that ecosystem, you're part of that governance structure. This is all what blockchain has to offer. You have a voice within that ecosystem, right? As long as you are contributing to the sustainability of that ecosystem, that is the beauty of what Web3 offers, decentralization and building a community, right? That is not what we can see with the likes of the Facebooks and the Googles. Today, you can contribute, you can browse on something, you're checking out this new device somewhere on the internet. What do you think is going to happen when you go on Facebook? The first thing you see is Facebook has sold your data to the first available customer. And now they're bringing that product, say, hey, come buy this. And what's happening? Facebook has made money off of your data. How do you get contributed? Right? Now, again, another thing we're looking at is the elimination of barrier to entry. Imagine someone, a young individual who's probably still in university, and you're trying to break across to the global market, and you don't have any form of income to even get you into that space, or you're an illiterate, or you don't understand any form of English. How do you eliminate those barriers to get into what they call digital platforms like ours? Because we're building a marketplace that is, like the form of Etsy, but we want to, we've looked at what Etsy is doing, and we've said, look, we can do much better, right? We don't need to be so profit driven. We want to definitely be sustainable, but we've looked at a lot of the flaws that they are doing, and where they are, and we've said, listen, we can do much better. But in order for us to achieve that, how do we include everybody to be part of this space? There are people who are unbanked today. How are we going to target them, right? And that is where leveraging digital assets go a long way. So, however, I am not going to say that everything is perfect with this technology, because it is not. There is the requirement to drive education, right? It is a complex technology, and we need to find ways to make sure education is part of driving the adoption of the technology. And that's where one of the key things that Afoma is doing is we want to make sure that we are driving education. And in fact, we just announced a partnership with an organization in Africa called the African Youth Architects today, where we don't want Africa to no longer to be a consumer. We've always been consumers for a long time now. Now we want youth to contribute towards the building of Web3 infrastructure, like the metaverse, for example. That is key to if we truly want to make people understand this technology. We have to bring in people from all parts of the globe to have an identity, to build something that people in their own country can relate to, right? As I pointed out, it is a complex project. Again, I keep saying project, but complex technology. But the minute we start adopting these technologies towards real world problems and more innovative projects, you now start driving the adoption, and the complexity starts to reduce. There was a time, if you all recall, the cell phone was created. A lot of people were like, what the hell is this thing? But today, what's happening? A lot of us can't even do without our cell phones today, right? Lack of regulation. And Michelle also pointed out this. I mean, there is regulation issues even in fiat, but I am fully for regulation when it comes to cryptocurrency, because there are a lot of people who have lost a lot of money in this space. But it also came down to the fact that they did not do their homework. They did not do proper research. Greed could also be a part of that as well, right? But regardless of these excuses or circumstances, there has to be regulation. And this is where the government, whether it's in Canada, whether it's in Nigeria, in the US, everybody has to come to the table and find out what is best for this technology. We do not want the fact that we're calling for regulation, that it becomes a barrier to innovation. It has to be done responsibly well. So I want to introduce you to Afoma. Afoma is an ecosystem that is designed to catalyze the evolution of the creative economy to Web3. So we've talked about Web2 is where today what you're used to, the Etsys, the Facebooks, all of these platforms today that are truly centralized, right? We want to change that. So we will build an ecosystem where they are used to a Web2 platform, which is called Celedic. So they come on Celedic, and we slowly start to transition them to Web3 by driving the education of the importance of leveraging technologies called non-fungible tokens. Hopefully, maybe next can invite me to come speak to that, St. Lawrence College. And, you talk about non-fungible tokens, you guide them into that space and eventually bring them into the metaverse. So our goal is to enable creators across Africa and the globe, even here I've called home for almost 20 years, to utilize that utility token to drive the purpose-driven and social impact ecosystem. I think I will ask Amanda to probably share this video. Is that okay, Amanda? I'm not sure if you guys can hear this, right? No, correct?
No, I think something is off with the sound.
A marketplace that leverages a rewards program that enables trust and a positive user experience. A marketplace that allows for inclusion and fair access to the global economy. What if we projected and tokenized exceptional and unique digital artworks in the form of NFTs, allowing for artists across developing nations to contribute their talent towards the emerging metaverse? What if we expanded business models by leveraging a utility token, where corporations can adopt a token-based reward system, which will drive corporate social responsibility and enhance employee engagement, performance, and creativity? All this driven by a digital social impact ecosystem that builds a community that includes a sense of mission, connectedness, belonging, and purpose. This will be our core vision here at the FOMA. So imagine the possibilities we can accomplish together. Imagine the endless opportunities within our reach. Just imagine the impact we can make for generations to come. What if this is just the beginning?
Thank you, Amanda. I will continue to share now. And yep. So Solidic is our first product within the ecosystem that we actually going into a pilot phase starting mid-November. We are actually starting to onboard artisans from Nigeria and here in Canada. So Shay, I'll probably be giving you a call shortly. And our purpose is more around driving prosperity through the creative economy. And I want to play one last video, if you permit me, and I'll ask Amanda to present that last video. And that last video is more around where we've demonstrated the ability to have an artisan from Nigeria sell across to the United States. Go ahead. Amanda, you're doing this so well. Thank you. Very impressed. So I'm going to wrap things up here. So this is our marketplace. We are still currently in development, but we should be ramping up. And as you can see, everybody will have, as we talked about the potential of what Web3 offers, everybody who participates or contributes within our ecosystem gets incentivized. That is our mission. which is what Web3 offers, which is what cryptocurrency allows us to do. Now, anybody in any part of the globe that can come in, whether you're from Nigeria, especially where we're looking at working with youth who are looking to just do social good. There are youth out there who are just looking to help. So if we can get millions, thousands of them, right, just going into their own communities, helping artisans who lack the understanding of technology or lack the understanding of even what it means to work on an e-commerce platform, that's where we use our utility token or our crypto token to actually incentivize them, right? So everybody will own their own digital wallet where they can either choose to hold as points or redeem in the form of crypto, which gives them the benefit of being part owners of this ecosystem, drive the governance of the ecosystem, and help them or give them the potential to unlock a lot of the features that will be happening across their former ecosystem. So thank you for having me, and I look forward to any questions or feedback at the end of the day. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. I love how passionate you are about cryptocurrencies and blockchain technologies, and it's really interesting perspective of how it can help solve real world problems. I've never thought about it before, but thanks for this perspective. All right, so I think we're a little bit pushed for time, so I would like to switch on to our questions that were provided by attendees during the registration process. And first of the questions are coming from business analysts. We have some of the business analysts and students who want to be studying to be a business analyst. And this is a question from them. What skills are required for business analysts to become notable in fintech? Michelle or Shay, do you want to tackle this one?
Do you want me to take it on, Shay?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, why don't you go for that one, Michelle?
Okay. Maybe one of the items I didn't mention is that I teach a business analysis course at a local college here in Toronto, George Brown College, and I get asked this question quite often. I was a business analyst myself, and I absolutely loved my time that I did it. And for me, the BA or business analyst role is critical to any organization, but chief of which being fintechs, irrespective of their growth plans and what stage of their growth plans that they're at. I will tell you, as a business leader myself, I'm very often challenged with bridging the gap between our strategy plan and how is it that our payments platform will continue to add value not only today, but as we move forward in our own growth. Meaning what is the efficiency of that platform and the utility to other businesses and users and any and all stakeholders. So to me, a business analyst role is all about communication, project management, and having the technical skills in order to engage the business and or business leaders, as well as the platform users, to then clarify these business questions. It's not about answering business questions necessarily, but how to clarify these business questions, these ideas, if you will, so that we can offer as a BA reasonable options and balance this with the feasibility of the solution, juxtaposed with how much is it going to cost, what's the operational effort involved. And if I look back at the person who I was maybe 25 years ago, and if I had the chance of redoing it, I would absolutely want to develop the soft and hard skills to be a business analyst, because I think it's interesting, and as importantly, it adds value. And hopefully I answered the question.
Thank you, Michelle. Shay, do you have anything to add to this, or?
You know what? I'm just going to jump in and do some rapid fire answerings of the ones that I see in the question and answer, because I know we've got some. So just to respond to the first one here that I saw from Angel, how do you verify the sender is super involved in transactions? So for us, we work with merchants. We're B2B. We do a KYB, or know your business. We basically do our due diligence on the businesses that we onboard. So this can mean anything from, you know, your corporate structure, all that sort of thing, any of the details around the business, some history on the business, all that sort of thing, sort of the typical things that a bank would look for. There are the cases that we do a little enhanced due diligence, but part of that is making sure they have AML procedures in place, as well as KYC, again, know your customer policies in place. So we are the one who manage the payments for the merchant. However, the KYC process is done on their end. And there's a lot of different ways to verify. There's technology that does it. There's API that basically can do it now, bank verification through something like Plaid or Flinks, many different ways to kind of do it. So I hope that that answered. And then secondly, there's a question here about the high volume sell-offs and market volatility in crypto. I just, with anything that's in any market, if the adoption isn't big enough, you will always feel the pain of an up and down. So it really, it will likely be volatile, but as more and more people don't complain about the gas price. Well, maybe they do complain about the gas prices, but that being said, anything in a marketplace will go up and down, will be volatile until there is enough adoption. So there's a couple answers.
Eric, do you have anything to add to that question?
No, I think Shay gave a good response there. I'll just add a few things there in terms of the, I think he's asking about big players selling in high volumes in future market. Yes, that is absolutely, that's, as Shay pointed out, if you tend to see a lot of where high volume owners of tokens, when they sell or dump those tokens, right, it does definitely create a lot of devalue the token in itself, right? So it comes down to the tokenomics of your project. So that's why we always tell people, and this again, guys, this is not a financial advice, but every time you're looking at crypto projects, you have to do your due diligence, look at their tokenomics, look at their mission, right? It's from there you can actually tell, what is this project all about? And is there a potential of where you might see bad players in that space with the potential of selling a high volume of those tokens, devaluing the token? So that's just what I would just point out.
Thank you, Eric. I would like to change gears a bit and switch out to the banking system and international trade. And I think Shay and Eric and Michelle, you already talked a bit about it, but where do you see fintech playing in a broader banking ecosystem, and especially when it comes to the international trade?
I can jump in and jump in there. In terms of international trade, I actually really like this question because it's a perfect use case for actual the interaction between fiat and blockchain and how that can actually help on an international scale. So much like Eric was kind of inferring earlier, we currently are helping with remittances to different countries, but instead of using the USD, like the US fiat, which is very typical even in global business operations, it's like, US dollar is typical. And so instead of using the US dollar and then maybe using the SWIFT network, I saw there was a question about the SWIFT network, using the SWIFT network to make that transaction, as Eric said, that's pretty expensive. It's $50 a wire. You got to go down to the bank sometimes. Then the bank's got to do a whole bunch. There's like 4 people that touch on it. It's ridiculous. And so in those circumstances, we're able to actually use USDT, which is basically pegged to the US dollar. And so in that circumstance, just that transaction itself, you just need it as a vehicle, basically a stored contain value vehicle to get it across to where you need to do. That happens within minutes, and it happens at a much better price. So that's a really good use case, in my opinion, of fiat and blockchain working together harmoniously.
Thank you, Shay. We have one more question here about the adoption of e-wallets with the unbanked. So the attendee was recently in Philippines, and the Gcash and PayMaya is used widely. Do you have anything to comment on those platforms or e-wallets in general? Eric or Michelle?
Yeah, I think I'll leave Shay. I think that's where Michelle, that's your area of expertise. So
I love it. E-wallets, e-wallets is awesome. E-wallets is somewhere that I'm really, really interested in currently. And I would say that the adoption of e-wallets is going to be very interesting. Particularly my interest lies in what you're talking about, the unbanked. We have an issue up in northern Manitoba, of course, where there are a lot of reservations, people living in still subsistence hunting, and literally don't even have social insurance numbers or anything like that. And oftentimes there are companies out there that are trying to help the economy, so they're working alongside these folks, but at the same time they can't even pay them. So the interesting thing is, because they don't have a SIN card, they don't have a bank account, and then most of the time, sometimes they're still doing trade, even like Eric mentioned. And so how do you adopt a trade lifestyle with fiat? It's very difficult if you have the banks kind of intermediaries in the way. So I would say the e-wallet is very interesting to me. E-wallets will change. There will be a broader explanation as to how e-wallets affect the Canadian people. But right now, my interest is that it's a place to store value, and companies should be kind of looking at it, because when you store value in an e-wallet, I think that ownership is almost more like you own that more than maybe a bank. And it really depends, because the other part of it is that the e-wallet is holding on to funds, but those funds are actually in an institution somewhere that those funds are set. So e-wallets are very interesting to me, and I think that they will become more popular in Canada for sure.
Great, thank you so much. I think it's time to conclude our webinar. I know we have still more questions we haven't answered, and there's always a lot to talk when we're talking about this trendy things as fintechs and cryptocurrencies and e-wallets. But I would like to thank you all the presenters and attendees for participating in this lively discussion about fintech. I would like also to express the gratitude to Patrick Agbunano, the Associate Dean of School of Business, Amanda Halton at Lawrence College, and for their hard work to organize and support this webinar series. The recording will be released and sent out to all the attendees and registrants, as well as a feedback survey. So please take time to get back with this survey so that we can improve. Please watch for announcement for upcoming next webinar, and enjoy your day and weekend. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good day.
Thanks, everyone.